Here is footage of me warming up for a 3x3 song. As you can see, I'm warming up with an RSTM 2020 3x3, and I'm using a Melon M as my main. That's normal, but now I've got a 7x7. Guess what event I'm actually doing? I was using a 7x7 to warm up for 5x5. So what is it about these warm-up cubes? Obviously, there's the cube that I'm maining, but then there's the cube that I'm warming up with. And sometimes they can be different puzzles. So in this video, I'm gonna just talk about warm-up cubes and how to choose the right one. Now, what are the benefits of choosing a warm-up cube? The first reason is in the name, warm-up. You can use it to get your fingers warmed up, and then once you do your solve, your fingers will be warmed up and they should feel ready to go. But the other thing is, and I'm gonna go more over this during this video, they can make your main cube feel a certain way, whether that's size, feel, or how you even solve it. So I think the best warm-up cube is just a duplicate of the one you have. Now, a Rubik's Brand 3x3 is actually the only duplicate 3x3 I have, so this is why I'm showing it in this example. Please do not actually use one of these in the competition. So if you're warming up with this Rubik's Brand for the competition, and you actually solve with this, then you'll be used to how this cube feels. And when you get to here, it will feel very normal, and nothing much will change. And this makes sense. You probably want to be warming up with something that you're actually going to use. So this is my #1 recommendation if you do have a duplicate of your main cube. If you don't, then try these other tips. Number 2, and this is actually the technique I used at Melbourne Summer. Choose your second best cube or second favorite cube. So I was using the Melon M as my main. I think my next favorite would probably be the RS3M. So I used that to warm up. And I mean, it turns well. It's honestly pretty similar to the Melon M, just a little more flexible. So I was kind of used to it. And once I got into my Melon, I actually got pretty good times. If you really don't know what to do, then those tips are definitely the best because they should work just fine for anyone. The next 3 are going to be more situation based. So let's say you're using this Rubik's Brand as your warm-up. Now this cube is honestly not at a bad speed, but the corner cutting isn't that good. So you're forced to turn more accurately. Okay. Now let's say you use the Melon M or pretty much any other speed cube, and it does turn pretty well, turns pretty smoothly. And also the corner cutting is better, so there's a little corner cuts, or just corner cut them very easily. But your hands have been practicing on the Rubik's Brand, and that made you turn more accurately. So that makes it that you won't mess up on the Melon M, or you will minimize lockups on the Melon M. Because on this cube, your fingers are just trying to turn very accurately. And then when you switch to the Melon M, your fingers will still kind of have that accurate turning kind of vibe. So you'll try to turn more accurately. I'm pretty sure you've seen people do this before, practicing on a really awful cube or not so good cube, and then once they get to their main cube, it feels really nice. But also, you adapting to this can make this even better. So the next point is kind of similar, and it's based on the speed. So let's say you're doing 4x4, and your warm-up cube was the Cheel 4x4. So this cube is honestly quite slow, and it's quite heavy, so you have to use quite a lot of effort. Okay, so now let's switch to the Melon M 4x4. This just feels like so much area to turn, a lot more faster. So your fingers will be using quite a lot of effort, but since this cube already turns so effortlessly, you can put more of that effort into turning accurately. And this gets more true for bigger cubes. So even on cubes like the 4x4, this can help, but as it gets bigger, it really helps. So we've talked about speed and stability. Now we're going to go into something that can actually be applied to other puzzles, like you can use a completely different puzzle to warm up. So that's what I did at Melbourne Summer and Altona, practicing 7x7 to warm up for 5x5. So why exactly did I do this? Now, if you've ever picked up a bigger cube and then started turning it, or even solved it a bunch of times, and then you went to a smaller cube, you will realize how small this actually is. This feels really tiny. Like, actually, this 5x5 in general, the Melon 5M is actually pretty small, but generally it is quite small. Now, not just because of the size, and some people do like smaller cubes, so this tip can also be used for making a cube feel smaller, but also about the puzzle itself. So if you look on the 7x7, there are quite a lot of centers and edges. Basically, there's a lot more pieces on here than the 5x5. You have to look ahead a lot more. If you kind of get used to the look ahead on the 7x7, then if you go to the 5x5, then there aren't that many pieces compared to the 7x7. So because you're kind of looking around the 7x7, it will be a lot easier to look ahead on the 5x5. And if you don't believe me, grab a 7x7 and then go to the 5x5, because it really does work. But hold up, why didn't I use a 6x6 to warm up for 5x5? Surely the 6x6 is bigger than the 5x5, and to be honest, it probably would have worked. The reason I chose a 7x7 instead of a 6x6, I guess it kind of does make the gap bigger. Like, this is a 2-layer difference, while this is a 1-layer difference, so you have to use like a lot more look ahead on here compared to this. But also because these are both odd-layered cubes, and the piece types are actually quite similar. As you can see on 5x5 and 7x7, there are these very middle pieces along the very middle rows, and that's not on the 6x6. There is no middle row. So because these two puzzles have quite a few pieces in common, I used this to warm up for 5x5, not the 6x6. And in case you're wondering, I did use a 6x6 to warm up for 4x4. If you really think about it, there are quite similar pieces. And although I do use different methods, like I use Yao here, reduction here, I find it actually does help me, because like knowing the color scheme for even number cubes, that's one thing you have to do. So that's why I practice 6x6 for 4x4. Like I said, I could do 7x7, and actually that would make the margin bigger, but because these are both even layered cubes, I prefer to do it like this. Speaking of making a cube feel smaller, yes, you can do that with the big cubes, but it can be used for any puzzle, like 3x3. So in this case, the Cheel MS is 56.5 millimeters, maybe 56, I'm not sure. And the Melon M is like 55, maybe 55.5. So there's a small difference. It might not be noticeable, but if you do like your cubes to feel smaller, then this could be the way to go. And if you can't feel the difference, just buy this big boy, the Cuberang Plus. This is 90 millimeters, and I've done like sessions on this cube, and then I switched to smaller cubes, and they just feel tiny. So if you like your cubes to feel small, then get this. And I forgot to mention this. I have seen people using Megaminx to warm up for 3x3, and that's because Megaminx is literally a massive 3x3. You kind of do like the cross and F2L slots, and then you do like S2L, which is like F2L over and over again, and then like a bunch of F2L. So if you do a lot of Megaminx solves, then that can kind of help your 3x3 look ahead as well. So those are 5 kind of tips to help you choose a good warm-up cube. And if you have any other tips, leave them in the comments below. Now, what should you do with the warm-up cube now that you've chosen it? Now, what you could do, different things work for different people. Obviously, you can just scramble it, do a bunch of solves. You can do a bunch of solves, or you can just do a bunch of algorithms and practice your turning. So one way I like to do this is kind of go through all the gens. So basically do like an RUF algorithm, and then an RUD algorithm, and then RU algorithm to practice my RU turning, MU algorithms, there's got to be more, RUL algorithms, I don't really use those. But just practice all different types of turning so you can be ready for the competition. And different things work for different people, so choose what you want. So those are some tips to help you warm up, from choosing the same type of cube to choosing an entirely different puzzle. If you learned something new from this video, or you just liked it, give it a thumbs up so I know. Maybe you can consider subscribing. And if you have anything else that you'd like to add on that could be interesting, put it in the comments below. I might even pin it if I think it's really interesting. Alright, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.